What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Israel Adesanya fighting for the title next? After indicating that he was planning to fight in 2024, reports have now emerged that Israel Adesanya will be in attendance for UFC 297, where Strickland will look to make his first successful title defense in Canada. Although Adesanya isn't fighting, according to a report from the New Zealand Herald, the UFC expects him to be in attendance for promotional purposes. The news comes on the heels of Adesanya's lawyer arguing in court earlier this week that convicting the former champ of drunk driving would, among other things, give him problems traveling for work, with the attorney using the upcoming UFC 297 card in Canada as an example. Given that Adesanya will be sitting cage-side, many members of the MMA community have theorized that the last stylebender could wind up competing against the winner. As he indicated recently, he's currently rehabbing an injury that has kept him out of training. However, he believes that he will be healthy enough to get back in the gym and return to full-time training by the end of February. While Adesanya could wind up getting a crack at the belt, Khamzat Chimaev has also made it clear that he feels he's next in line for a title fight after his victory over Kamaru Usman, although some feel as though Chimaev hasn't done enough to get a title fight. He says that the UFC promised him the opportunity with a win at UFC 294. Next, let's take a look at Henry Cejudo sends a warning to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev were set to compete at UFC 294. However, an injury not only forced Oliveira out of the fight, it also set the stage for Oliveira to defend his status as #1 contender against a streaking contender in Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 300. With Oliveira in a must-win position, if he wants to secure a rematch with Islam Makhachev, Henry Cejudo believes that the former champ needs to connect with a sports psychologist. He spoke in a video for his YouTube channel, where he offered Duke Bronx some advice.
He'll lose his composure. He lost his composure like way back in the day. You know, whenever it is that Charles Oliveira got hurt, like you could see it. You would be able to see it. I feel like he came out of that, but I think a little bit of that when he fought Islam, and he admitted it. It's like his composure will go out the window. This is somewhere where you got to be careful. This is somewhere where I feel like a sports psychologist could really help him so you could accept that. Learn how to kind of reach that nirvana when you're going through this crazy hell in these fights.
Although Dana White has indicated that the winner of the UFC 300 fight between Oliveira and Tsarukyan is next in line for a crack at the belt, Islam Makhachev has indicated he plans to fight Justin Gaethje this summer, before then setting his sights on the Oliveira-Tsarukyan winner later this year. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at UFC fight updates. With the UFC's 2024 schedule in full swing, let's take a look at today's UFC fight updates, starting with the change to the UFC Vegas 87 card on March 16th. According to Dana White, the Tai Tuivasa vs. Marcin Tybura fight, which had been previously scheduled for UFC 298, has now been moved to the UFC Vegas 87 card on March 16th, with the fight now serving as the headliner. Later that month, at UFC Fight Night Atlantic City on March 30th, Sean Brady will compete against Vicente Luque in a welterweight collision that will see Brady look to build momentum on a recent win over Kelvin Gastelum, while on the flip side, Luque will be looking to return after having his UFC 296 fight with Ian Gary called off at the 11th hour. The following week, Melissa Dixon and Nora Cornell will compete in a bantamweight fight that will see Dixon look to build on an October victory in her UFC debut, while Cornell looks to build on a win over Jocelyn Edwards back in September. Last but certainly not least, Dana White has indicated that Cody Garbrandt will get his wish for a fight with Deiveson Figueiredo. The bout will take place at UFC 300 on April 13th, with Figueiredo looking to build on a victory over Rob Font, and Garbrandt looking to build on a 2-fight win streak that most recently saw him defeat Brian Kelleher. Next, let's take a look at Chito Vera reveals UFC plans after Sean O'Malley fight. As Corey Sandhagen indicated back in October, amid a 3-fight win streak, he would like to get a title fight when he returns to the octagon rather than having the UFC rebook his fight with Umar Nurmagomedov. According to Marlon Chito Vera, if he defeats Sugar Sean O'Malley at UFC 299, he will ask for a fight with Sandhagen in order to avenge the loss on his record. Speaking in an interview with The Schmo, he shared his thoughts, putting Sandhagen on notice.
I will choose that fight. I mean, the winner of Merab and Henry is also a big fight, and the UFC knows. Whatever they pick, I will do, but if I have to choose myself, I want to kick Corey. I know he's dorky crying about it, but it's not my fault. No one gives a fuck about him.
As Vera indicated, many also feel that the winner of the upcoming fight between Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Cejudo should be next in line for a crack at the belt. With that fight set to take place at UFC 298 in February, it's likely that by the time Vera and O'Malley compete in March, the UFC has a pretty clear idea of who will be getting the next crack at the title. Next, let's take a look at Chael Sonnen reacts to Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz. Jorge Masvidal's tweet indicating that he was unretired left many fans wondering what the future could potentially hold for the inaugural BMF, although many assume that Masvidal would be returning to the octagon. However, that doesn't appear to be the case. According to Ariel Helwani, the most likely scenario is a boxing match with Nate Diaz, something that has been in the works for some time. Amid Diaz putting out a post on social media indicating that he would like to compete at UFC 300, Chael Sonnen weighed in on the rumored Diaz vs Masvidal boxing match. He spoke in a video for his YouTube channel.
This is amongst, if not the worst, idea that I have heard in a meaningful period of time, unless your goal is like Brewster's Millions to see how fast you can go out of money. My fear is that Nate and or George are the ones putting the money. I don't want them losing their money. I don't want them doing this. And I don't know that they are. I'm just suggesting on this piece of information that I got.
With Diaz indicating that he would like to fight at UFC 300, it's unclear what will come of the talk. From all indications, in order to box Diaz, Masvidal would either have to get clearance from the UFC or get released from his contract, with both scenarios being long shots from the sounds of things. Sean Strickland is looking jacked after he posted an insane body transformation in a new picture next to Bellator middleweight champion Johnny Eblen, where you can noticeably see that Sean is in the best shape we've ever seen him in. He's geared up and ready to take on Dricus du Plessis at UFC 297 on January 20th. MMA community is furious with Dana White. Heading into 2024, fans were hoping that the UFC would significantly cut down on the number of events held at the Apex. However, that doesn't appear to be the case. In addition to the Fight Night Ankalaev vs Walker card that just happened on Saturday, the UFC has plenty of events scheduled to take place at the Apex in the months ahead. On a recent episode of UFC Unfiltered, former welterweight champion Matt Serra spoke with Ricky Simone and Jim Miller about the Apex, with Miller revealing that he's only fought outside of the Apex once since the promotion first started holding events there several years ago.
I do miss the crowd. I do miss the big crowds. It's awesome, you know, to share those performances with a couple thousand people.
The MMA community seems quite united in regard to their stance on the Apex, with one fan writing, "Listen to the fighters, Dana White. They live and breathe to fight in front of a live crowd. The Apex does them and the fans a disservice and leads to lower quality fight nights with less energy and less inspired fights. The fighters deserve a crowd. We hate the Apex." In the replies, one member of the MMA community wrote, "I'm 100% on board with this. F the Apex." Another weighed in during the Ankalaev vs Walker event on Saturday, writing, "This UFC broadcast is just so quiet. I hate the UFC Apex events." Another wrote, "I feel like the concept of the Apex was great during the pandemic, but it's without a doubt overstayed its welcome. It's cool for contender series fights, but for full-blown events? Nah." Another questioned why the promotion was still having events at the Apex in 2024, writing, "UFC Apex sucks. Why in 2024 are they still having events in there?" Dana White's Power Slap was targeted by one fan who wrote, "Power Slap blackjack tables with Steve Will Do It is 1 million times more worth the investment." Given the backlash, it'll be interesting whether or not the UFC begins to phase out the Apex in late 2024. Top comments. "Come on guys, Islam absolutely dominated Charles. Why in the hell should he be scared? He was dominating in every aspect of the fight. Only a dense and ignorant person would think Islam is scared of Charles. It makes no sense to rematch a guy you beat fairly easily when you're trying to build your legacy. I understand the Volk rematch as it went the distance, and some questioned the result. Not me. I thought it was obvious Islam won. So he wanted to put an end to that and he did so. It makes more sense for him and the division to take on a new challenger. Can you imagine how everyone would react if Stipe KOs John in the first 30 seconds? Now saying it's gonna happen, but I just for real want to see the internet's reaction. There's always talk of Khabib coming back. They've been saying this since he retired. Khabib is not coming back. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.